Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm going to give a little breakdown today on why I think that what happened on last Tuesday's trustee meeting to throw $1 million at private property was a ridiculous abuse and says a lot about the caliber and competence of the team running Union Township at this point in time. Happy Sunday. I'm wearing my Be More Like This Guy t-shirt with everybody giving the fascist salute except this one guy in the middle. And I think that's the essence of conservative patriotism. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to play some highlights from the meeting, and then I'm going to take you through 5+ reasons, actually 6 reasons in total, as to why I think this was a terrible idea to throw $1 million into private property on the part of the township. So let's get started with the video excerpts from the meeting. You can go watch the full meeting, but here's the excerpts that I picked. Let's go.
All right, gentlemen, item Foxtrot, the Eastgate Mall Route 32 corridor development.
So that's just the intro, and it's of course Michael Logue having to use military terminology for everything: foxtrot, golf, etc., etc. You might notice over my shoulder I got 3 hefty glasses of vodka poured. Those are going to come into play later, relating to Mr. Logue as we watch more of the highlights of this. I checked. I don't think Michael Logue has ever held a private sector job. Think about that. I don't think Michael Logue has ever held a private sector job, and it shows by the lingo that he constantly uses during meetings. It's like junior executive shit. So let's keep going.
Look at the acreage. There are a total of 11 owners spread out in the parcels of different size. One of those 11 owners, a company named Eastgate Mall CMBS, was working through the legal system in a bankruptcy case. I believe they were there for approximately 20 months. Along with this, there was a case filed in Clermont County Common Pleas Court for foreclosure on their property here in Union Township at the mall. This encompasses about 38 acres of the entire mall complex. The foreclosure went through the Clermont County court system, resulted in the 38 acres of the mall property being sold at share foreclosure sale. Without getting into too many details, this is pretty similar to a process of somebody that's getting their house foreclosed on, or another business that's going out. They followed the statutory process, and the property went to auction on July 12th. At the sale, the property was sold back to the bank that held the loan on the property for $13.3 million. The business.
So this is what's called taking a haircut. So a private property went bankrupt. It sends to start resetting the value to what's the real value. The bank bought it back. One thing you want to remember is that what they're talking about here is 38 acres of well over 100 acres of property. There's 11 different parcels that make up the mall area. And as we go through this, you're going to hear me talk more about the mess that exists today because there's so much divided ownership of the property, and there's covenants that different people have that prevent anything from happening, and nothing ain't going to happen until that gets cleaned up. Let's keep going.
Businesses that are in the mall at the moment are all still have not been affected by this. They are still open, so please feel free to keep patronizing those businesses.
How do you like that ringing endorsement if you're a business in Eastgate Mall? Just that your government needs to let people know, hey, it's still open. You can still go in there if you want to. Go ahead and head on over. Actually, I'll talk about a few of the stores in there in a little bit. Let's keep going.
Had previously taken the stance to let this matter get sorted out amongst the private businesses. I understand this as a strategy, but what we have found while this is going on is there has not been a driving force in getting the 11 mall property owners together.
So I think that's ridiculous. First off, the driving force is called capitalism. And what's happening right now is you have a dying property that needs to finish dying so that new owners can come in, not the same people rebuying the property, not the people that already have stakes in the property. It's called capitalism. Notice how you never hear Michael Logue, Joe Dills, or Susan Ayers actually talking about shrinking the size and scope of government or about capitalism driving these things. So they come from a mentality that's maybe from different places of big government, but also Middletown type government. Let's keep going.
Status quo has some update, but it also has some downsides. The downside to this approach that I could see is that the public has never had any formal chance to talk to the appropriate groups together and voice what sort of property they want to see. And we've never really had a driving force trying to get new development moving forward.
So let's think about that for a second. This is private property. The mall is all private property. But the citizens are the ones who should say what it should be used for, and the government should be the driving force. One of the things that Michael Logan, Joe Dills are afraid of is this book, Animal Farm, and because they live Animal Farm. The idea that you're going to have an elite group of people decide what everybody else should do. It's never going to work this way. Susan Ayers doesn't understand that because she's never been involved, as far as I can tell, in a successful development. She's been involved in things in Middletown that have never worked. But let's keep going.
The trustees to consider authorizing me tonight to start soliciting a vendor to help us draft a master plan for the mall complex. I'm asking this board to consider allocating $1 million of this funding to economic development needs of Eastgate Mall in the Route 32 corridor. Setting up a pledge. Development funds will allow me to go to the marketplace owners, discuss the needs, and fit public funds where it makes sense to match those community interests with the needs of the private businesses. Master planning.
So think about that last line she just says, to match public funds with the needs of the private businesses. Is this conservative government? Is this conservative government? So in the past, we've had things in Union Township that always generate a profit for the government. So when Biggs was a destitute area and the government got involved, they've always been revenue positive. This has nothing to do with being revenue positive. This is about government throwing money into private businesses on some pipe dream that this is going to create some great result. Well, what has happened with Hollywood land in Middletown, Miss Ayers? And what's gone on with Towne Mall, other than pretty pictures of Middletown's Towne Mall, what it could look like? I don't see a lot of shit going on there. So let's keep rolling.
The first step to try and get everyone on a common vision and a common goal moving forward.
No, that's not what's going to get people on a common vision and a common goal. What's going to get people on a common vision and common goal is for owners there that are not part of the future to leave. It's like a bad neighborhood that you want to revitalize and get new people in. The old people, it's their time is over. They need to move on. People like Dillard's is a great example. Dillard's is not with their flea market store they have now that makes a lot of money for them. They're not going to be the part of some future utopian development there. They need to go so that new owners can come in. The thing that is going to get people on a common vision is more common ownership, or ownership that has clearly aligned views coming in, not because the government made them have those views, but because they are the people that did it.
This is a pledge. It is not an ultimate budget. You're not approving spending funds this evening. Each expense under ARPA will need to come back to you for final approval and allocation, so there are some stop gaps and safety nets along the way. For example, if this board agrees with this path, we will issue a request for proposals and bids to secure a planning firm first. So I'm asking.
I'll come back and talk about request for proposal that she talked about. But then what is the whole point of this? It's not a commitment, it's a pledge, it's not spending, it's going to be separately approved. So what is the point of this? This is like Susan Ayers. Here, I'm going to break it down. This is Susan Ayers has no jack with any of these people. She doesn't appear to be a person that's competent and knows what she's doing. So she needs $1 million wallet with her to be able to have any credibility with these people. I'm from the government. I look like an idiot and I don't know what I'm doing and I have no track record. Hey, but I have $1 million. I can align that money with you. Do you want to talk to me? Oh, yeah, we'll talk to you now. Ken Geist would have never needed to do something like this. Never, 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 because he would have had credibility with these people from the get-go versus Susan Ayers, please give me a IOU for $1 million so that I can get these people to do something with me other than some bullshit conversation on the phone.
If the board would consider two things: first, authorizing me to engage in this endeavor, and second, pledging up to $1 million in ARPA funds to be approved along the way for expenses related to the 32 and Eastgate development.
So those ARPA funds should be getting used for things like getting caught up on our roads being repaved. My neighborhood, the roads are 30 plus years old. They are about ready to go. And that money, $1 million, could be used to do a lot of get caught up on these roads in our township versus we're going to throw it into some utopian vision plan because that for Eastgate Mall, where we have to subsidize Miss Ayers because she doesn't have the jack or credibility to get these people's attention without $1 million wallet from the taxpayer.
An exciting role and a place for.
I'm going to pause here. This is Michael Logue talking. So you're going to listen to him. I think it's the longest clip of all these, and I just want to listen. I want you to listen to this guy talk. Just listen to this guy talk.
For the township to say, have the table and have the stage to invite those private business owners to align strategically for a common vision and goal. My perspective on that is, even with where the mall currently is for ownership, it's only going to work to align resources to where someone actually wants to come in with a big investment. And I think that's what our residents want to see as far as their engagement and being heard as to what is the most economically advantaged resource that provides for amenities that the community wants. I think about hike, bike connectivity through different retail corridors. We just mentioned the expansion for TQL and helping with crosswalks to go across, Ivy Point. But I think we need to be able to have a crosswalk and streets that can take us through, to the Civic Center here and over to Eastgate Mall and make it a very bright, vibrant community with that smart development focus. So I hear you for asking for authorization to pursue and to start with market research, really. I mean, market research should always be continuous and ongoing because the market changes very quickly. So I'm excited for the opportunity that the township's going to put that out there, or at least you're asking for that, to take initiative, make it a top priority for the township, and actually asking us for a pledge to allow her to engage in an RFP process to a master planning firm and be able to have the support of this board, and as that is as a pledge, and it would come back for anything that actually is expenses. But I hear you too that the master plan is not going to be $1 million, but it's just, are we making it a top priority for our community or not?
I would assume that.
Now, I could have included a lot more of Michael Logue jibber jabbering on and on. Frankly, the guy is like he's on some sort of drug, like Ritalin or something like that. He keeps using all these buzzwords all the time. And I'll tell you something, if somebody says and government says smart development, you can assume it means dumbass development. They have to use words like that to get you to buy into something that really makes no sense economically. It's the I don't know what he's talking about. He gets into like some sort of market research, sidewalks, bike trails at the mall, just this randomization machine of buzzwords and try to keep everybody, tell you the convenient lies to make you think something's going to happen that you want or your individual little agenda is. I have no idea what's going on. But remember at the very end of that, he said, we got to spend the tax money so it looks like this is a top priority. We'll spend money of the taxpayers so we create the appearance that this is a top priority. Let's keep going.
Penny, the Grandma's family, and Kroger would want this done, because if there is a master plan and it can be fulfilled, I would assume their business would skyrocket and do well. Have they committed to you yet to help with, taking on some of the cost of this master plan to have it done? Have you got any kind of commitment from them at all?
I
To be
have
a partner?
spoken with each of those entities. They have not committed specific funds, but a lot of what conversations we've had up to this point in time have been theoretical. I mean, until we know exactly how this is going to move forward, it's a bit of a theoretical discussion.
Fair enough.
All of them have indicated they would like to participate in this process and support getting something done.
I don't mind.
You gotta love Joe Dill starting out with, I'll assume that these people want to be part of this, but nobody's committed shit. Like, this is another thing that would not have happened under a Ken Geist type person. The idea that you get people to commit nothing, but we'll go ahead and throw $1 million into the game. Why don't we just throw that out there for you guys? And then maybe you'll do the right thing and commit something. These people are monumentally dumb. This is the reason why there are no Joe Dill's businesses in existence today. And Michael Logue has never held, as far as I can tell, a job in the private sector. They are like, it's like a cartoon book of people trying to run a government at this point that really have no clue what they're doing. And by the way, a lot of people have no clue what they're doing. Smart people who have no clue what they're doing go get experts that actually do know what they're doing. These guys don't do that because they can't admit they have no clue what they're doing. Let's keep rolling.
Township having some skin in the game, but obviously let's try to convince the actual owners of the property to have some skin in the game as well, if you know what I mean when I say that. So let's split the bill up and be fair about it. Let's try to. I'm not telling you how to do your job. I'm just saying, let's just try to, you know, be mindful of the $1 million allocation that we're doing that. But I'm confident that they'll help.
And
I think by us doing this,
Think about how dumb this is. So uh, we should split the bill up. Let's try to. We don't have to, but let's try to. I'm confident they're going to help. Here's a little tip. You do this negotiation before you put $1 million in, not after. You don't put in the $1 million and then say, hey, now let's negotiate. Now let's negotiate. Um, it's what this says is that these people will have no respect for you, Joe Dills. They will not have respect for people that would throw money into a deal without any reciprocity, any commitments, any agreements, anything. But by the way, a lot of the owners that are there now, the solution to the mall is going to be that they are gone, not that they are propped up. They need to move on. And we'll talk more about Dillard's as we go here in their flea market store. But that is uh, one of the key things that needs to happen is for people to move on. But the notion that you're going to get people to commit after you put in your money is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Let's keep rolling.
them, the owners of that property and the community, that we are serious. I have an idea of a company to spearhead.
No, Joe, it shows that you're suckers. So the notion that we did this because it shows that we're serious is put that on top of Michael Loeb's. We're going to spend the taxpayer money to show it's a top priority. Joe Dill's is we're going to spend the taxpayer money to show that we're serious. This is the reason why we should waste $1 million of taxpayer money. Let's keep rolling.
I would like to issue an RFP and send it out to the market and see what we
Great.
get. I know of a few firms that do work in this area, and I will make sure that they get the request for proposals so that they can submit if they would like.
Yeah. I would just think,
So here's what should probably happen in a case like this is not an RFP. Susan Ayers, if you're watching, is do a request for information to people that are big developers to ask them for their insights on what the property should become, free of charge. Invite them in to make little presentations. You can get companies to do this because they'll try to want to get positioned to get that actual money. We have $1 million, but step one is we want to do a request for information where you all just come in and tell us what you would do with this property. And you won't hear these guys say this term, and they should, highest and best use. The thing that should be in play here is figuring out what's the highest and best use for that property to create the most value. And that may not be bike trails and crosswalks, whatever the hell Michael Logue wants to be here talking about, but what is the highest and best use? And that's what you'd be asking for in an RFI is come in and tell us from your perspective what would be the highest and best use for that property. Let's keep rolling.
obviously, I encourage, I'm sure you're on board with this, is when the time comes to just do everything in our power as Union Township to solicit ideas and feedback from the community. What do they want? I've heard everything from an ice skating rink, ice hockey. I've heard indoor soccer. I've heard 5, 10, 15-story tall condos, apartments that are going above it. I've heard, they want it to look like, Liberty Town Center, Rookwood Commons, everything. So when the time comes, however you feel necessary to communicate with the community, to just make sure we're soliciting feedback and letting the master plan developer know, what's the most popular ideas. So.
That's
So let's throw money in, and then when the time comes, we'll figure out what it should be. And when the time comes, we'll figure out how to get other people to have skin in the game.
Yeah, so I like the idea of taking a leadership position on this. I think that's well worth $1 million. I can't think of anything that's more important to the community than the Eastgate Mall.
So this is John Becker, the fiscal conservative guy, that nothing's more important for $1 million than to create the appearance that we took a leadership position on this. We took with private businesses, we better throw in $1 million so we look like we have a leadership position. This just exposes how much John Becker is a bunch of empty words of conservatism versus a logical economic development approach that makes sure we're actually going to get payback out of things. You'll hear that in just a second.
I think it's got the potential to get a whole lot of payback with this. I think it's moving in the right direction.
Thank you.
I'm on board.
So John Becker, how's that payback going to come? So in the past in Union Township, that payback comes because of TIFs that bring money to the township, JEDs that bring income tax to the township, a payroll tax to the township. How is this going to generate money? Where's that payback going to come from, John Becker? So here's what's happened is in the past, the township never entered into a deal where the deal wouldn't be profitable for the township if it went forward, or at least never lose money for the township. This is just outright dumping money into something without having thought through any aspect of how it is going to actually result in income to the township or end up paying for itself, which tells you something about what the value of the investment is going to be.
Doing those type of calls, surveys, we're going to generate great data out of that. As far
So this is Michael Logue again, and my vodka's ready back here, my 3 glasses of vodka. He starts jibber jabbering about surveys. Somehow we're going to do surveys. We're going to find out other shit from doing surveys and stuff about Mount Carmel. I can tell you one thing about Mount Carmel is you should have put the farmers market in Mount Carmel where the prior regime wanted to put the farmers market, so it would create some activity there versus in the parking lot of the bus stop in the Union Township Civic Center. But I'm going to get my thing ready here because I only put a few in here, but Michael Logue likes a buzzword in this meeting and says it over and over and over again. And I put 3 times in here, and that's why I got these 3 shots lined up for me back
as getting feedback information, because maybe it's Eastgate Mall related or maybe it's a Mount Carmel area related. So there's going to be a tertiary effect here that is, I think, a force multiplier and a benefit. And it's
there's shot 1, force multiplier. That's the buzzword, and we're going to find out in every meeting what's the Michael Logue buzzword of the day that he's going to say over and over again. But force multiplier, if it would have been a drinking game during this event, you would have been hammered on the floor. But that's shot 1 down. Let's keep rolling.
one thing government can do to knock down some barriers to those non-revenue producing costs to operate, here in the township, and where we can be a force multiplier. And,
There we go. Here's shot 2, force multiplier. Well, notice how I said knock down those non-revenue producing costs. This is a new definition of business. Last time I checked, when you get into business, there's a lot of costs you incur that aren't directly revenue producing, like your rent, maybe. Maybe your inventory's directly revenue producing. But now we're going to have a government that's about knocking down non-revenue producing costs for businesses. I think Michael Logue, you need to read this book, Animal Farm. Okay. It would help you a lot, maybe. And also, you might want to also read this, the Constitution. I'm going to study on that a little bit. So let's keep rolling.
someone was, they were surveying at General Data Company or in TQL, hearing what their 400 Clermont County employees, want for this area, and being able to solicit feedback and, continue to kind of be a force multiplier for that, for those type of industries. We'll close this with a
So we're going to go ahead and drink the 3rd shot on force multiplier. I would like the trustees to have a resolution that you could start having vodka in meetings so you could shoot down, or whatever your drink of choice is. So you can take some shots every time you hear whatever the buzzword of the day is there. Now, by the way, that was not actually vodka. Those were water. I'm glad with drinking vodka, but I'm not drinking vodka right now. And then the very end, Michael Logue, before they voted, kind of wrapping it up.
And we're not committing to it, but we are pledging the $1 million for you to engage in the redevelopment of Eastgate Mall and the Route 32 corridor.
So that is the video highlight. Now, and I think the funniest thing out of the whole thing is I wrote them down here is that you had what was it? Joe Dills. We need to spend $1 million of tax money, so we show it's a top priority. You've got Michael Logue that we show that we're serious, and you got John Becker that we take a leadership position. This is how we're judging what to do. And I just want you to think about how much road repaving of residential streets that are caving in Union Township could $1 million pay for? How much road repaving of your streets? So let's say that, they say it's the most important thing ever. I think Eastgate is extremely important, but I don't think it should take away from money to serve the citizens of Union Township. I think the strategies for Eastgate Mall should make money for the township, like the places that the township has gotten involved in before, where you had maybe blighted areas like the Biggs area, where the township got involved and figured out a way to get that going with a tenant, not like this, where it's private. It's still got to go through some more hair cutting on the revenue side. So and on the valuation side, so that it can really get to a place where it's become makes sense for whatever new plan will emerge there. It needs more time. So let me take you through what I think are the 5 reasons this is really dumb what the trustees did. Okay, and there's probably more. And I don't think I put in there the thing about top priority, show we're serious, take a leadership position, this nonsense that says that you're basically clowns that don't command any respect from these people. So you need to have $1 million with you. I'm gonna say something off color here before I talk about this. And very off color is this is like I wrote it down here, and I know, and I'm gonna regret saying it, but I'm gonna say it. It's what these guys are doing would be like walking into a whorehouse with $1 million in your hand, saying, "What can I get for this?" What it gets you is that you show that you are a complete sucker and you're willing to throw money on the table, and people start to think you're just dumb in what you're doing. And I bet you the owners there are loving this. The idea that the government's now decided they're going to throw money in to subsidize us when the current ownership group, think about this. Now, Grandma's came in later, Kroger came in later, but the people that have been the owners are the ones that have driven the mall to the situation that it is. They're not going to be the solution. The solution is going to be more change in all of those parcels and more consolidation across all of them. So here's the 6 reasons. It's 5 plus 1 reasons. First one is that the money would be better used for something with some value, like paving our streets that are falling apart, a 30-year interval type expense where we could get ahead of that so that we don't have to have a tax increase for paving streets like Miami Township did just a couple of years ago because they didn't keep enough money aside for paving streets. So that's the first reason. Second reason, and I put this, hey, if the township is dumb enough to dump in 1 million, they're probably dumb enough to go 2 million. They're fools. So if I'm somebody who's a current owner there, like a Dillard's, who has basically almost zero cost in that building, uses it as a flea market location and makes a lot of money right there, and has no interest in what the long term is there. They just are interested in making money on their flea market site that they already own that is exceptionally low cost to them. So those kind of people be like, huh, these people are dumb enough to throw $1 million of taxpayer money in here with no conditions and no preconditions negotiated with any of us. They're probably willing to put in more money. And why would I get out now when I can possibly take advantage of the taxpayers to make more money for myself? Third reason, it causes the existing owners to hold out for more when we need some to sell out and go. So a lot of these owners need to go. They need to go. So Susan Ayers, you're from Middletown, or you were in Middletown government, so you might not understand something other than collapsed government in a destitute area and high crime and drugs. But if you have a bad neighborhood in Middletown, the people that might be living there now are not going to solve the problem of fixing the neighborhood. That's what is those people might need to move on so that then it can get fixed. And now by throwing money into this, you're creating an incentive for owners that might otherwise say, this property is not going to go anywhere long term. I need to move on to stay there even longer and hold out for more money. You're messing up the private valuation of these places in a way that is going to slow down change there because now you get shown, hey, the government's willing to start throwing cash into this deal, and don't sell right now because I might be able to get more out of them as time goes by. Fourth is that right now, any plan done with the disparate ownership of those lots, those parcels, with very different views, from the Dillard's flea market location to the grandmas wanting to change it from retail to condos and apartments, that you're never going to get a plan out of this that is anything other than an idiotic pipe dream by committee that nobody's really going to be bought into because You need actual ownership change of the parcels in order to get to a point that you can get any sort of real consensus there. I'm telling you, lots of these people need to move on, and the best thing the government could do is stay out of it to wait for the dead cat bounce when it gets to the point that people start getting out of there. Fifth reason, I'll tell you why this is really dumb. Why on earth did the trustees approve a Kroger plan, not investing one penny in a traffic study on how the gas station is going to affect the entrance and the traffic at the entrance? Why did they approve that plan at the last meeting, only to that at this meeting say we need an overall plan for the mall? How dumb is that? How dumb is it that you would approve a development where, by the way, the positioning of it is terrible for doing anything there? The loading docks of the building will face into the prime area that you would develop, and a gas station will be put at the main entrance of the mall to make it basically a cluster F. And you approve that, and then the very next meeting, oh, we need to get community input. How come there was no community input on the Kroger? Why didn't that happen, Michael Logue, who's wanting to do all this surveying, all this community input? Apparently, once something happens and you get excited, somebody's going to do something. That's all out the window. By the way, what happened to some of the people that spoke to you guys, where you told them you were going to have committees and focus groups before you decided to do anything with this Joe Biden money that you got? Remember that? Remember when you had people standing before you wanting you to give it back to taxpayers, which would have been a bad idea, by the way. But you guys committed to not do anything with the money until there was community input on what to do with the money. I guess that got blown out the window, or there's a secret group that gives you community input. And then the final reason that this is dumb, my bonus reason, the sixth reason is these guys haven't even thought about things like a TIF, a JED, a new community development authority, or any of the mechanisms that actually can get used to really propel something forward and get it moved. Instead, they're just going to piss away $1 million with owners that are all self-interested. Some of them need to move on. It'd be better to let it dead cat bounce the property values so that people will move on. We're doing the same kind of thing that has happened in Middletown with the Hollywood land and with Towne Mall. A lot of government money pissed away for nothing, but it made pretty charts and pretty presentations and meetings, but didn't effectively get anything accomplished for those communities. So that is a summary of what happened and why it was a bad move. And anybody listening to this that knows that's from Union Township and knows any of the history knows that no development would have ever happened like this before. No development would ever. Nobody would have needed $1 million wallet to walk into a meeting with them to have credibility with property owners. They would have had credibility because of their past track record and results. This is a horrible use of $1 million. It will slow down development at the mall, whatever it becomes, and it will create some sort of Frankenstein vision that doesn't really probably make any sense whatsoever, and is not based on a feasible economic value. Which, at the end of the day, you need people with serious jack money to come into this place, and those people are going to be the ones that have their pulse on what's the kind of things that can generate return on investment. Not, me, my neighbors, a housewife, a person over here sitting on a bench, people that work at TQL. Those aren't the people that are going to have those, that are going to know what's going to have the most impact there and what can be the highest and best use of that property. All right, so that's it. That is my rundown of what is of why that was a bad decision. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, at some point in time, our trustees can get their personal issues and the egos out of the way and start doing stuff that's thought through and start reaching out to people who have expertise instead of doing dumb shit with people who have no expertise and have a track record only and not getting shit done. Thank you for tuning in.